Okay, buenos tardes, good afternoon, everybody. It is nice to see you on this Sunday early evening. So let's see, quick show of hands, a couple things, housekeeping. One, phones, turn them off please so they don't get the call. If you need to leave the sanctuary quickly for any reason, this is my stewardess impression, there, and behind us. It's always good to know. And of course, folks who are joining us online, and I know there's many of you who are streaming right now, hello, we're glad you're here. Show of hands in the sanctuary if you are a congregant at Temple Emanu-El, so I can see who we are, okay? And show of hands if you are not a congregant at Temple Emanu-El or not yet. Okay, great, awesome. Glad to have you guys here. Glad to have you here. So, Marita and I just got back from Iceland, and we were there for 10 days, just the two of us traveling around. And it was our first trip without kids in 16 years, which was wonderful for many reasons. I love my kids, but I was so glad that they were not with us. We loved this trip, and they would have hated it. Because it is beautiful and there's lots of long car rides and there's not a Legoland or a Disney, so it wasn't for them, but it was for us. And my wife, and I think many of you know that she's a hospital chaplain, she and I had, at one point while we were driving, we had the conversation, and we, as a clergy family, we have these conversations once in a while, and the conversation went something along the lines of, and this may seem macabre, but it was somewhat playful, okay? What's the inscription that you want on your tombstone? Okay? Now, it's on one hand, at first it seems like sort of a heavy ask or question, but really it's like, how do you boil down what you value in your own life to just a few words? So you have the obvious ones, or at least to me they are obvious. Father, husband, okay, friend, rabbi, okay? And the one that I said I really wanted to be on there is either friend of Israel or lover of Israel. That if I was going to put something to define who I was, that is something which is so important to me. And she agreed. Although the tombstone can only be so big, right? So this is my way of saying that all of you who are intimate with Temple Emanu-El know that we are a Reformed Zionist congregation, and that means we have all the complex and complicated conversations about Israel that need to happen. It's a complicated country. We live in America, a very complicated country, right? So that's a complicated country as well. But at the end of the day, we're Zionists here at Temple Emanu-El. And one of the things I look for in the people that I interact with below the surface level is folks who live their lives along the same value as I value. And of course, paramount there is Israel's safety and security and the ability to flourish. Both of the women who are going to be conducting the dialogue tonight, Cheryl and Lana, both inspire me. Cheryl I've known for about a year and a half, right, since you and your organization led the march in front of the consulate, right? And Lana and I have known each other back to my Los Angeles days, so we're going back probably 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. I don't follow lots of people on Facebook, but I follow you, right? And in part because both of these women have dedicated a good part of their lives to doing what I and we think is so important, really have dedicated it. And they do it in a way that is not sort of the usual moves or strokes. In other words, in a way that is, I think, certainly maybe not unique, but rare. The dedication is admirable, and I think for both of them, it's inspiring. And I have tremendous respect for both of you for what you do with your time professionally and with your free time, and how you try to bring these values to those of us who are looking for some direction, and maybe for those who are on the fence, and I appreciate that. Okay, so let's give them a hand, please. And I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi, and thank you for opening your home to us. Thank you, all of you, for coming. I want to thank our promotional partners, Liberate Arts, which is Lana's organization, Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation, the Weber School, St. Louis Friends of Israel, CAMRA, Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, Augusta Jewish Museum, B'nai B'rith, Southern Jewish Life, and Israel Insight. I'm Cheryl Dorchinsky from Atlanta Israel Coalition and the End Jew Hatred Movement. And I'm here with Lana Melman, who wrote the book. When you came in, many of you saw it. It's an absolutely fantastic book. I've read it twice myself. She's the author of Artists Under Fire, the BDS War Against Celebrities, Jews, and Israel. So thank you, Lana, for being here with us.
Thank you. Am I on? You can hear me. Oh, great.
You're
Thank
on.
you. Thank you.
What motivated you to write Artists Under Fire?
Can I start with a brief reading from the
You
book?
absolutely could. I'm sorry. She does a beautiful reading, and I don't want to skip that.
Just because I think it will help you understand where I'm coming from. And Rabbi Spike, thank you. That was so beautiful, and I'm so touched when other people speak about Israel that way. It makes me a little teary. I was introduced to Jew hatred many years ago. My mother taught me about the Holocaust when I was 9 years old. My grandmother whispered terrifying stories about pogroms in her native Russia. My dad talked of growing up in Los Angeles, where the signs in shops and restaurants said, "No Negroes, no Jews, no dogs allowed." The parents of a grammar school friend were both survivors who met after the camps. Crude ink numbers peeked out from under my friend's mother's cotton sleeve as she made us sandwiches for lunch. Her dad's tattoo was visible on hot summer days when he puttered around the house in a t-shirt and shorts. My parents explained to me that we Jews had to live in our own neighborhoods, go to our own schools, and join our own clubs because we were not welcome in the non-Jewish neighborhoods, non-Jewish schools, and non-Jewish clubs. My parents were willing to accept the discrimination they faced in American society. They did not go where they were not welcomed. They were of the same generation as the Holocaust survivors who were part of their community and who wore the scars of Jew hatred tattooed on their forearms. My dad fought in the war, and the murder of European Jewry was personal to him. Millions of Jews, men, women, children, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters, perished in the ovens and the killing fields of Europe during the Second World War, victims of the Nazi regime and the indifference of their neighbors. While I was raising my children and working in Hollywood as an entertainment attorney and then creative executive turned writer-producer, I wanted to believe that the dark cloud of anti-Semitism had finally passed over us. After all, the doors that were shut to our parents were open to us. Israel was hailed as a miracle by Jews and admired by the world. I was wrong. I was unaware that the strains of anti-Semitism were creeping back into universities in the West in the form of anti-Zionism. I did not know that a coalition of individuals and organizations called the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, otherwise known as BDS campaign, would seek to isolate Israel, the only true haven for millions of Jews across the globe, economically, academically, and culturally, as a path to its ultimate dissolution. I never imagined that this politically motivated campaign would use the celebrity of artists to spread destructive lies about the Jewish homeland and poison hearts and minds across the world. Today, Jew haters have weaponized culture, and Jews everywhere need to pay attention to this now. We are a diverse people leading different lives, but when the sky darkens with hate to the rest of the world, we look amazingly alike. That's part of the introduction to the book, and I think and hope that that sets the stage for tonight's discussion.
I think it does perfectly, and I appreciate you sharing it. I really do. As I asked before, what motivated you? It sounds like, some of it is your upbringing and, seeing the world as it is right now. But as far as writing a book, I mean, not everybody writes a book and gets as involved as you have.
Right. I like to ask a question at the beginning of these events. How many people in this audience are concerned about rising global anti-Semitism?
Can I raise my hand too?
Yes. That's why I wrote this book. I wrote this book because the cultural boycott campaign, which uses the celebrity of artists to spread disinformation about Israel and poison hearts and minds across the globe against all Jews, is, I believe, the newest and most dangerous weapon in the Jew hatred arsenal. Whenever an artist wants to perform in Israel or is invited to receive an award in Israel, Jew haters mount a campaign to pressure them, harass them, intimidate them into canceling. A lot of people think that the end goal is simply isolation. And that certainly is one of the objectives. But the isolation does not necessarily come from the cancellation of a performance or a speaking engagement. The isolation comes from the repetition of the lies about the Jewish homeland. So whenever a tour or a concert is booked, they immediately go on social media and malign Israel and then personally accuse the artists of endorsing their slander and misrepresentation. They'll say Israel's an apartheid state. And therefore, if you continue with your scheduled performance in Israel, that means you, Madonna, Katy Perry, Mariah Carey, John Bon Jovi, the Rolling Stones, if you go, that means that you personally are endorsing war crimes, racism, genocide, the torture of children. So they are using their name and likeness to draw attention to their poisonous comments. And when you use the name of an artist in conjunction with any story, it gets picked up by mainstream press and is printed around the world. Hundreds of millions of people are seeing the constant repetition of these vicious lies against Israel, which dovetails into centuries-old Jew hatred that we've all heard. about the evil, murderous, greedy, all-powerful Jews who are controlling the universe. So that's why it is so dangerous. It's not just the end goal of canceling a particular concert. They are controlling the narrative. They are attempting to rewrite history in order to control the future. And they're using the brand, the free advertising. They are leeching off of the celebrity and popularity of artists to spread their misinformation.
So let's talk about Roger Waters.
Okay.
You mentioned him in your book along with quite a few others. He'll write open letters. And do you feel that that's very successful? Has he been? Thank you. Well, you just said Pink Floyd. He's one of the founders of Pink Floyd. And we actually, right now, as we speak, have a free download you can have. It's on the End Jew Hatred and the AIC page of Wish You Weren't Here. Lana and I spoke with the director, and it's fascinating. So if you have time, please watch it. But that's a side note. As far as he goes, and others like him, how successful are they? How many artists cancel because of it?
Also, this is incredibly dangerous, but I also want to put it in perspective. There's another misconception that anti-Semitism is infiltrating the entertainment industry. And yes, there are examples of artists who support the boycott and who continue to perpetuate lies about Israel. They are a small, small minority. The vast majority of artists they particularly love Israel after they've been there. Our best weapon in all of this is Israel itself. Because when artists go there, they can see with their own eyes that it's not an apartheid country. And they write wonderful things about it, and they make wonderful statements about it. So this is not something that is poisoning the entire entertainment industry. The power that Roger Waters has, what he'll do is he has personalized this. He has made himself the poster boy in the entertainment industry. And he not only calls upon his fellow entertainers, musicians, but actually, in my opinion, very visibly harasses them. He'll call them out in open letters. He talks about them in videos. He says the really horrible, vicious things about other artists who want to go there. His power is he's still a co-founder of Pink Floyd. His concerts still sell out. His concerts get reviewed. He is an icon in the music industry. He's legendary for his work in Pink Floyd and some of the theatrical stuff he's done afterwards. So his success is that when he speaks and he manages to elicit a response in particular, but even when he doesn't, just the fact that he makes a public statement saying, Nick Cave, if you go there, that means you are fill in the blank, profoundly ignorant, indifferent to the suffering of Palestinian children, whatever his allegation is, his very statement always gets reported in the news. That's where his power comes from, is that just by his name alone. So has he been successful? Occasionally, in actually convincing people not to go. Occasionally he has. But that's not where the real muscle is. The real muscle is that when he makes a statement, it gets picked up, not just on social media, but in newspapers across the globe.
So what do you think at his concerts? I don't know if anyone's ever been to one, and I'm definitely not recommending them, so please, I'm not going to one anytime soon. He had a pig with the Star of David on it,
Yes.
which seems to me to be blatant Jew hatred. He claims to be an anti-Zionist, but he claims to not have any problem with Jews. Why doesn't the media pick up on that? Why does he get away with doing that?
Yeah, why? Why? I think one of the things that we can do, what makes us powerful, is that we can complain about that. We all have local newspapers. Roger Waters comes to town or comes to our states and performs, and we can write letters. We can talk about that on social media. We can call out newspapers who are turning a blind eye to his so many anti-Semitic remarks and glossing over it.
Why do you think he and other artists, a minority, you just said, buy into this BDS to begin with?
Because BDS has disguised itself, it has cloaked itself in the language of the progressive left and talks about things that resonate in the hearts of people. They talk about human rights, they talk about being anti-genocide, they falsely label Israel as a colonial state, not colonial, what's the,
Apartheid?
well, yeah,
Colonizing? Settlers?
yes.
Land stealers? Occupiers? I can go on all day because I've been called all of them myself.
All of those, colonizer, thank you, that was the word that was escaping me. So, all of those things, and racist. So, by doing that, by repeating that lie over and over again, a good thing that's happened is that we all recognize that racism is wrong, and all of us are against racism. So when they keep marrying those concepts, the Jewish homeland to racism, and people, you know, artists, they live special lives in a lot of ways, but they get their information the same way that all of us do. They read newspapers, they go on social media, they talk to their friends, they talk to a lot of friends who have gone through the university system. So they don't have any special knowledge. And how many times have you looked around with people that you know that aren't as well informed about Israel as they could be? So they're no exception to this. So what are they really saying? They're really saying, I'm against racism, I'm against apartheid, and who blames them for that? But where the falseness comes in is that they have been led to believe that those things are true of Israel, and they're simply not. And then there's this whole concept of intersectionality, which is started in the universities, which began in one concept and has evolved to the idea that all minority groups have a common interest in standing up to the oppressor. And the anti-Israel crowd has done a very good job of infiltrating that movement, that thought process on college campuses and defining the Palestinians as oppressed and improperly defining Israel as a white colonizer oppressor.
You said in your book, BDS claims fake victories. How do we know the difference between what's real and what's fake?
Well, one of the things, and I really hope that you all stop by the table and are able to buy a copy of the book, because that's something I really go into in the book to help you understand and how to look at the information and tweeze out very simply and easily who in fact are endorsing BDS, as opposed to artists who sometimes simply cannot stand up to the heat and capitulate, not in support, but oftentimes, sometimes, not only in fear of their reputation and careers, but also sometimes in fear for their lives. So I try to explain what the continuum is, and so it makes it more clear. The other thing I invite you at the end of chapter 1 is a list of all of my social media sites and an opportunity to sign up for the newsletter. And that's part of what I do. Liberate Art does, is that we send out newsletters and we explain to you what happens. And I reach out and I contact managers and agents and I get the story and I tell you what's going on. And I give you an opportunity to participate, to say thank you to artists who stand up for Israel and stand against the cultural boycott, and express appreciation to those people, as well as an opportunity, if you are so inclined, to express how it feels to you as a Jew or a person of conscience when you hear artists like Mark Ruffalo repeat devastating anti-BDS messaging. How does that make you feel when you speak out in a very personal way? It makes a difference. One of the things that really strikes me is how often I find that the people I talk to in the audience don't really feel that what they'll do will make a difference. And it's astounding to me, because I have seen what other people do who are Israel haters. And we're talking about single individuals who will write an open letter. We're talking about, I had mentioned also before, just a few days ago, Dave Chappelle was scheduled to do a concert. I think it was in New York. I'm not sure. And I think a lot of people in this room know that he's had a lot of problems with the LGBTQ community. Well, 126 people signed a statement to the event site and expressing their feelings, I didn't read it, their outrage, I'm sure. The site canceled the show. That's 126 people made that difference. Now, did he, in fact, get another gig? Yes, he did. But does that make a statement? Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's communicating that it's not okay with this group, and their voices got heard. And your voices will get heard too. I promise you. If you write an email to, when I give you contact information, and you write a nice, appreciative email to the agent or manager, they pass it on. They pass it on. That's how you can make a difference. You're very, very powerful.
You mentioned your book a little bit about, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone. You still need to read the book. There's so much more in here. Scarlett Johansson and SodaStream. How the BDS movement claims that, they want to help Palestinians. Can you tell us a bit about that example? And have you seen them actually help Palestinians?
No. And here's the thing. Language is extremely important. I've never come across, I've been doing this since 2011, so that's 11 years. I have been so deep in the weeds, both following things on social media, mainstream media, and speaking to agents, managers, lawyers, etc. I have never heard or seen an example of supporters of BDS doing anything that was pro-Palestinian. I have never, ever witnessed it. They've never tried to support struggling musicians. They've never tried to create collaboration for peace. And in fact, most of the time when artists attempt to make an attempt at like drawing attention to their cause, like Eddie Izzard wanted to run in a marathon, which they were doing in Judea and Samaria, also known to many as the West Bank, to draw attention to what the event organizers wanted the world to know. They wouldn't allow him to run in the marathon. Why? Because he was performing in Israel the Thursday before. In the case of Scarlett Johansson, all those Palestinians, I think there were 1,100 workers, SodaStream had a factory just on the other side, inside Judea and Samaria, and it was often a target of BDS, even though approximately 50% of the people who worked there were Palestinians from that region who were getting incredibly well-paid jobs. Ultimately, and afterwards, it took I think about a year and a half, the owners of SodaStream eventually decided to shut that facility, and all those Palestinians lost jobs. If they really wanted to improve the lives of Palestinians, that would be the last thing they would do. The last thing they would do. I never say pro-Palestinian to describe their actions, because they're not. Everything they do is anti-Israel. That's it. Everything begins and ends there, getting rid of the Jewish homeland. The best thing for the Palestinians, I think we would all agree, would be peace. Peace. Peace brings prosperity. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of nonprofits and organizations and individuals in Israel that are waiting and ready to help them get on their feet if they would accept peace and recognize Israel's right to exist.
Thank you. Could you share some examples? I know you mentioned a few when we talked about Roger Waters, but artists that are performing in Israel and very vocal, supportive, and embracing it?
Oh my goodness, so many. There's so many. Well, I don't know how familiar you are. I have a whole chapter on it. And in fact, one of the things I do in the newsletters and on my website, I have all these like hundreds of memes of artists who have spoken out and expressed their love for Israel, the people of Israel, against cultural boycotts, against BDS. People that come to mind is Bill Maher. He's been an incredible advocate for Israel. Jay Leno, Madonna, Mariah Carey, Nick Cave, Ricky Martin. It's really hard. It's hard for me to even to list them all. And I also want to underscore, given what these artists go through, the way they're dragged through the streets by the back of a car, what they go through, the fact that hundreds of them continue to book in Israel and are willing to stand up, that's really putting your money where your mouth is. They're willing to do that. And the interesting thing, and one of the things I like to when I reach out personally, is I like to reassure artists that sometimes it's their first time through and they get a little nervous, that despite all of the horrific scare tactics that they are subject to, their careers ultimately are I can't recall at the moment of anyone who has ever been in any way substantially injured. I mean, it feels horrible when they're in the eye of the storm. People are saying terrible, terrible things. And again, I have examples that I've copied and, and pasted into the book where you could hear some of the stuff they go through, but it doesn't have lasting effects. And if you compare a list, which I've never gotten around to making, but I wish I would, a list of all the names of high-profile, successful entertainers who have been in Israel, who continue to go to Israel. They are so impressive. You would feel so good about this. And you compare it to the ones that support BDS, I would imagine many of those names you're not going to be familiar with. It's really, that's really the accurate picture of the sentiment in the entertainment industry. But the people who get the attention, and there are some, and right now we're, Gigi and her sister Bella Hadid are doing a lot of, dispersing a lot of untrue and harmful propaganda. They get a lot of attention. They get a lot of attention.
You mentioned at one point when we were speaking a letter that so many different hundreds of people in the entertainment industry signed. Are all of them people that we know? Are all of them, top entertainers? Who signs these letters really?
I think you're referring back in 2014. I worked together with other high-profile members of the entertainment industry to circulate a statement in support of Israel's right to defend herself. And it was, I think it was Protective Edge, Operation Protective Edge. And most of those people were very influential behind-the-scenes players, CEOs of networks and major production companies, music executives, agents, managers, but then also there was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Kelsey Grammer. The list was quite long also of entertainers that also signed that.
I was actually referring to the negative one where Tex signed it and people who have nothing to do really with truly being on stage and in the limelight.
Who signed
It wasn't it Europe. In Europe, they came out with huge letter claiming it was, they're all boycotting all these entertainers, and really it wasn't even entertainers. A lot of them were people in the back, like someone who,
When I was
does the
talking
lighting.
about is Artists Against Apartheid UK. And this is actually a group, mostly based in the UK, but they accept people, signatories from all parts of the arts world. And there are some names, particularly more in theater. That's a whole other really interesting subject in terms of UK and England and the theater as a source of a lot of this anti-Zionism. But if you, so they are referred to themselves as cultural workers, and there are some names of important people in the theater and literary arts. Excuse me. But a lot of them also are people who are not what you think of when you think of the entertainment industry or the arts, like the front people, the main players. They could be in the lighting department and other parts, which of course are in fact artistic, but won't necessarily be names that you would recognize. And most of those people they're not, when they sign this pledge to boycott Israel, they're not giving up very much because they really don't have much opportunity to go there. It's not like they're really sacrificing a paid gig, if you will. They're just endorsing it. I also, in the book, I really want to describe, and once you get it, one of the things I try to do in Artists Under Fire is explain things really clearly and concisely in a conceptual way. Now, I give a lot of information. I provide a lot of evidence to make my case. You can use this as a reference, but that's less important. What's most important is that you grasp the concepts in here. And one of the fundamental concepts is understanding the similarity, the recognizing the Jew hatred in anti-Zionist language. And once you get that, it's like something clicks. And it really provides you with a filter and a way of understanding what you're reading. No one's saying that the world can't criticize the policies of Israel. You can even make an argument about housing in East Jerusalem. That's not what the point is. If your accusation says that you are calling Jews greedy, thieving land stealers, that is Jew hatred. That's classic anti-Semitic trope, a classic anti-Semitic trope. So if you feel someone can make an argument about property laws or even make an argument that they feel it's the right thing to do, you can make any of those arguments. But once you falsely lie about history and say that Jews have stolen Palestinian land, then you are trafficking in classic anti-Semitic lies. And I also invite people to talk about it that way. There's such an instinct when people lie about Israel is to try to combat it with the facts. I really invite people, and again, I think and hope that I make it easy for you to grasp, is to, instead of when I talk to representatives, I will answer and address their comments or concerns. But then I pose the question. I ask them if they find what BDS is doing to be morally acceptable. Do they understand the Jew hatred that lies inside that messaging? Do they agree with that? And that's a whole other way to make people think about this. And it works. I have found it to be very, very successful.
I do love how you provide at the end of each chapter different solutions and different things that we as individuals can do, because again, as you mentioned, believe it or not, we all have within us the power to accomplish quite a bit, and together, united, we can truly make a difference. So could you give us any more examples of what we can do to help without spoiling the book?
Well, again, I invite you, when you're done with each chapter, the step that follows is incredibly simple and clear. And a lot of it is a way of understanding and perceiving what's going on and giving you like simple concepts and ideas about how to deal with this. They are, one of the most important ones is the one I just discussed. And then the other thing is really encouraging you to raise your voice however you feel comfortable. Be part of this. Be part of history now. You really, really can make a difference. So they're there, and I get so much positive reinforcement from it. And when you read it, you'll see how really easy it will be for you to be engaged and for you to be a positive influence on the future for our children.
Your organization, Liberate Arts, just like Atlanta Israel Coalition, are part of the End Jew Hatred movement. Can you tell me why you signed on to support the movement?
I'm so glad when this started. I think it's so wonderful. I always talk about the pro-peace, pro-Israel community, each one of us, individually and organizations, as being a tile in a mosaic, that all of us are doing our work, and together we create the picture. What the End Jew Hatred movement does is give us all an ideological banner under which to operate. And it's so simple. We are calling for the end to Jew hatred. We are living in a time of chaos, but also hope, because change is happening. The society is happening. And this is our opportunity, when the world is redefining everything, for us to say, now is the time to end Jew hatred. So that wonderful organizations like the Atlanta Israel Coalition, that does amazing work and has really been a force in this city, but throughout the country and in Canada, and I think across the world, can do their work. I do my work inside the entertainment industry. In this book, which, by the way, not only are we selling out front, and I'd be happy to autograph, but you can also get on Amazon. I'm doing my work, and we have many things in common, Cheryl and I, but both of our organizations fit perfectly under the banner of End Jew Hatred. We're in total synchronicity.
I would agree. And what better way to support Israel than to go to Israel? I heard that your congregation, I saw the pictures, many have just returned from Israel, Rabbi, and it looked amazing. And those who didn't get to go are welcome to join us in November. Shameless plug, sorry about that, everyone, but it had to be done. I'd love to open this up to you now. If you have any questions, please come, and there's a microphone right here. You're welcome to come up to us. Thank you. Please come on over. Hi.
Hello, my name is Jeff. Great presentation. Thank you, Lana and Cheryl.
Yes.
I'm all into writing emails and stuff like that, but I've never been to a Roger Waters concert, I'm glad to say. But there's one coming up August 20th, and the first thought I had was maybe under the auspices of the Atlanta Israel Coalition and Rabbi Spike's a real man of this sanctuary, Congregation of Action. Is there something we could do? It's right at State Farm at the CNN Center. I'm thinking of maybe holding signs or getting a rally going.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm in.
Yes.
I mean, I'm in.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, because, emails about, but
No, yes.
it's at the CNN Center.
Yeah.
I mean, we get some publicity, so, I mean, I'd be glad to help
I couldn't
out, but
agree
I
with
think
you
it'd
more.
be better under the umbrella of a...
If
Thank you.
everyone who attended these sessions today, earlier today, this evening, and tomorrow, if everyone wrote a letter, 126 people, Dave Chappelle, 126 people. And by the way, I just want to say, petitions are great. What's even more powerful are individual letters. That's even more powerful. They don't have to be a book. And the other thing that I also stress in here, you do not have to be an expert on Israel. You don't. All you have to do is express how you feel. If you get the address, Cheryl's wonderful at those things. I'm happy to send it out to my list. Yes, yes, yes.
Rabbi Spike and I and a whole
Now,
bunch
by
of...
the way, it doesn't mean they'll cancel the concert, but it does mean that it registers, and they know that there are consequences. People are noticing. And we were talking about when he performed in Canada.
Right.
Yes, that I think it's Bruce Tannenbaum is the name of one of the
I know the
owners.
last name is Tannenbaum. I'm not sure if it's Bruce, but
Okay.
the donations.
So forgive me for that.
Yeah.
But he owned the site, the venue, was one of the venue owners. We heard by very good sources that he ended up donating proceeds to Jewish and Israel organizations. So, what does that tell us? That tells us it resonates with him. It resonated with him. And that's what we have to do. And by the way, it has been effective. Major League Baseball took down advertisements for one of his tours a couple of years ago. Yes.
Anthony Ressler, who's the primary owner of the Hawks and State Farm, is Jewish.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and Rabbi Spike and I went to March for Our Lives. I mean, the strength in numbers, as you're saying, says, I think it'd be a great idea, to do something visibly right out there at State Farm Arena.
I'm 100% in.
We can start
you.
with 126. How about that? And then we can get up to the thousands. But we can do that.
I am very, very appreciative of that question. And absolutely, I'd love for us all to get together and discuss and then make it happen, because actions do speak louder than words. And people should understand that if they're spending money on this entertainment, it's actually contributing to Jew hatred. There's no other way of saying that when there's a pig flying around with the Star of David on there.
I don't think he's doing that anymore, though.
Oh, it was in the...
He's doing recently?
I was told. I mean, maybe... Listen, you're the professional. My sources may not be right, but I was told he's still up to his usual hate.
Well, that's for sure. And one of the things he was being interviewed, he felt slighted because a Canadian newspaper did not do a review of the concert. And when they finally interviewed him later, his comment was, well, who was behind that? Inference being that, in my
The
mind,
Jews.
the inference being that the Jews did that. So yes, he can't help himself right now. And I have wonderful videos of him on my YouTube and on my website of him accusing Jews or Israelis of being extraterrestrial aliens. Okay.
Hi.
Lana, thank you for coming to Atlanta. I hope you come back often. And this is a question for both of you ladies. We, as Jews, have a remarkable ability to form organizations. Dozens and dozens of organizations. The SJP really...
Can everybody hear him?
He said we as Jews have the ability to form dozens and dozens of
We're
organizations.
great at forming organizations. Part of what we've seen from on particularly campus anti-Semitism is the ability of their organizations, I'll name a few, if not now, SJP, Jewish Voice for Peace. These organizations don't seem to be natively Jewish. They do seem to work in tandem and in coordination. And I'm wondering if we can gather more organizations and build a larger coalition to end Jew hatred, and if the two of you could help lead in that.
May I answer?
Yes.
Come on, I'm aching.
I wanted an answer from both of you, but that's okay.
I'd like to go first. So that's why we formed Atlanta Israel Coalition. And every time we do anything, we invite every organization to participate, every organization with exception for those who want to wipe us off the earth because we don't really want them to participate in our events. We'd love to change their hearts and their minds, but they're definitely not part of our coalition. And the same thing with the End Jew Hatred. It's a movement. It's a global movement. And we're building networks. And we're supporting each other. And we're sharing ideas. And we're taking action. So I'm grateful for that question because it's so important. Because you're right. We've all been in silos. Every organization does something. And there's a purpose for every organization. And it's very special. But when we formed Atlanta Israel Coalition, we were thinking, if people who want to destroy us have intersectionality. How is it that we're all scattered everywhere? We all just want to live, right? I mean, that's a basic goal. We want to live in peace. We want to be able to celebrate and be Jewish openly, and we want to be able to support Israel without being called names, without getting death threats, and all those other lovely things that I've been subjected to since starting the organization. Thankfully, the End Jew Hatred movement started because truly there's so many people who go around going, oh, I'm an anti-Zionist, but I don't hate Jews. And I like to tell the story of when two people go into a bar, they're both Jewish, one's an anti-Zionist, one's a Jew who is not a Zionist, and the bartender says, I don't serve Jews. They both walk out. So my theory is just because, you don't support Israel doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to openly support Israel. And I always welcome people to go visit, to experience themselves. And most of the time when I'm talking to individuals, they'll say, like, I would never go there. Well, then how do you know it's true? Well, I read it. My friend told me about it. My neighbor. Do we base anything else off that? Please, Lana, I'm sorry for stopping you.
Good job. For me, that's what the purpose is, what you just said, which is this gaping hole of an umbrella. We're missing an umbrella. That to me is what, personally, how I see the End Jew Hatred movement, so that we're all rowing in the same direction. And as Cheryl noted, we share information. And one other thing too, again, the power of the few. You talk about JVP, or Jewish Voice for Peace, and you would be shocked at how few people show up for their protests outside in front of concert halls. You would be shocked. What happens though, even though there may only be 15 people that attend this protest, is that it makes news. The fact that they're there makes news, and people are talking about it. And even music reviewers will mention the fact that there were protests outside.
Right. My daughter, thank you, Lana. My daughter was on Birthright. Just three people from If Not Now. I guess that's the organization that's disrupting these Birthright tours.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where they had security remove them. They couldn't deal with these folks. They were disrupting the trip, and they had security pull them off the trip. But they seem to be working in tandem, and we, I feel, could do a lot better job between AJC Global and we have several organizations here in Atlanta. I can't even imagine what we have nationwide. That we have an opportunity, just by sheer number and smarts. We're actually smarter. It's a stereotype, yes, but it's true. It's a stereotype because it's true. We have an opportunity to work together, and I'm glad you recognize this, in an umbrella organization. And
Movement. I
Right.
like the idea
It's a
of
movement.
a movement.
Perfect.
Because none of us
Thank you.
have to give up our work. And yes.
And this is a global movement. The
Yes.
End Jew Hatred movement really is standing up, speaking out, supporting Jews, saying enough is enough. We've supported people across the board. We've marched. We've stood up for. We've spoke out for. We believe in civil rights. What about us? Thank you.
Thank you again for being here. It's well known by many, many people that BDS is a moniker for Jew hatred, that BDS is an acronym for Jew hatred. And that large knowledge must, of course, extend to the mainstream media and to many of the Jewish reporters and commentators in the mainstream media and on television, on radio, and in print. Why is it, in your view, or do you have a view, as to why people other than Bill Maher and others, and a few others, have spoken out against BDS really being Jew hatred?
I think it goes back to the fact that they are disguising their movement as a human rights movement. And we are living in a time of tremendous cancel culture and virtue signaling. All of those things combine. So people are reluctant, and a lot of them, these journalists nowadays have all gone to the universities. They've gone to Harvard, they've gone to Yale, they're Ivy Leaguers, NYU. So they have been indoctrinated. And I think that what it takes, they are so sensitive, by the way. They are so sensitive to being called out publicly. Again, we have so much power. If they say something like that and they're turning a blind eye and you call them out on it, you will be very surprised at their reaction. You have a lot of power to make a difference.
You don't think at all that it's like the New York Times in the 30s and 40s refusing to acknowledge what went on in Germany and was going on in the world? Do you see a parallel between Jewish reporters worrying that they'll think, well, gee, he's Jewish, so of course he says that? And what I'm saying is the New York Times was owned by Jews who wanted to be assimilated and did not, and hid what was going on.
Yeah.
Do you think we're suffering from some of that with Jewish reporters and Jewish commentators?
This goes back to one of my steps is I actually say exactly that. I say, don't be afraid that people will say you're playing the anti-Semitism card. Don't be afraid of that. It used to be once upon a time, if people said, oh, to someone who was standing up for discrimination against black people, that they were playing the race card, and that would shut them up. When was the last time that happened? It's not going to happen. So yes, we have to exactly address that. And I think you have hit on that. But it's not just the reporters that feel that way. I think that's one of the stopgaps for a lot of the Jewish people themselves. So yeah, I think and by the way, I just want to say that personally, I'm not an agitator. I'm not a disruptor. I'm not going to ever stand up and scream in the middle of a speaking engagement. But what I will do is not only advocate in all the ways that I do attend protests. And when calls go out from me, from the Atlanta Israel Coalition, from End Jew Hatred, to be somewhere, to talk to my friends about it, to post about it, I do that. Once you do that, you will start to feel also a sense of community, and that's how we grow. If you don't feel aggressive, I'm not advocating for that. I'm telling everyone there's plenty you can do within your own comfort zone, plenty of things you can do, and big differences you can make that are not confrontational or aggressive in any way, like the JVP and interrupting that birthright tour. We don't have to do that.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, or is it up? We have another question.
Cheryl and Lana, I know that End Jew Hatred movement is quite young, maybe just a couple of years old. I was wondering if you could tell us some of the organizations across the country that are involved. And I know we have quite a few people listening in on the live stream today. outside of Georgia. So can you tell us how individuals as well as organizations can learn more about end Jew hatred and avail themselves of the tools that end Jew hatred produces so that they can be part of the movement?
They can contact me. Everyone contact me. Cheryl Dorchinsky. You can contact me at atlisraelco@gmail.com or cheryl@endjewhatred.com. And we're there to support. I mean, really, that's the bottom line. The End Jew Hatred movement has been incredible with not only providing, when we're going to go down to share our voices about Rogers Waters concert, for example, they'll provide signs, T-shirts as you've gotten. They'll provide resources. Recently, we participated in a movement and a protest against Cooney, with all the hatred there. I mean, just from end to end, legal resources, here to support globally and build a global network where we can all be a part of something very special, standing up for ourselves. It's time. It really is time.
I think, are we done? Oh,
Yes,
yes,
Lee,
yes, yes.
Lee,
Well,
thank you.
yeah.
Lana is going to be
I'm
outside
gonna be
signing
outside
books for
selling and
everybody.
Signing books. Please get a copy. I'd love to autograph it from you. And I really encourage, because you can go to these events and you can listen to webinars and you can do all those things. There's nothing like having this in front of you, taking your time, understanding. I think I do a really great job about building a very solid argument, and I put BDS on trial, and I think you will be convinced. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lana. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, ladies. Okay, so let's all make sure that we're getting a book or two or however many you want, and Temple Emanu-El will certainly be purchasing a number. And thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Pardon?
Oh, yeah. Lee, you're so good at this. Yes, we're also going to be at Thou Shalt Read bookstore tomorrow in Roswell.
Roswell,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Roswell bookstore, 6:30 tomorrow. Thank you all
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.